Hi, Ben Llewellyn here. Today I'm going to talk about the Hungarian Revolution. The Hungarian freedom fighter was named Times Magazine Man of the Year in 1956. This shows both how the world thought of the 1956 revolution, a struggle of the ordinary man against a great oppression, and as well acknowledging this event captured the entire world's attention. How did this come to pass? Well, following the Second World War, Hungary was taken over by the USSR, along with the rest of Eastern Europe, and made into a satellite state. By the 1956 revolution, Hungary was part of the Warsaw Pact, ensuring Soviet domination. During that period, before the revolution, Mátyás Rákosi ruled Hungary with absolute power. He took a totalitarian Stalinist approach, including using state security to torture Hungarians, and total destruction of opposition. Many patriotic songs were even banned. You had to join the communist student group if you were at university. There were no other routes to expressing yourself other than the Communist Party. However, when Stalin died, Khrushchev took over and began to liberalize, enacting reforms, moving away from Stalin's harsh Big Brother style, which became known as de-Stalinization. Rákosi was removed from power and replaced by Imre Nagy, who was seen as a reformer. Students were given some basic rights, but by 1955 he had gone too far for Soviet authorities in liberalization, and he was forced to resign, being replaced by Erdős Gerő in July of 1956, who had been one of Rákosi's top men. Students, however, were not happy, who saw Imre Nagy as a hero. On the 13th of October, 12 students left the Communist Student Union to re-establish the democratic one, which had been banned under Rákosi. On October 22nd, this new democratic union issued 16 demands, known as the 16 points, including reinstating Nagy as leader of Hungary, the withdrawal of Soviet troops from Hungary, and democratic elections. The following day, the 23rd of October, these students organized to express solidarity with Poland, which under Vladislav had enacted some reforms and was looking like it was liberalizing. And they went to show the solidarity by laying wreaths at the memorial to the Polish-born General and hero Józef Bem, who was also a hero of the 1848 Hungarian Revolution and a hero to both Poland and Hungary. 20,000 people came by for the afternoon. Their 16 demands, nothing less than a revolution, were read out to the crowd by Veres Péter. By 6 p.m., 200,000 people had gathered before the Hungarian parliament. 2 hours later, at 8 p.m., leader Erdős Gerő gave a speech condemning the 16 points, which angered the protesters, who then destroyed a 30-foot statue of Stalin, the symbol of communist oppression in Budapest. About this time, crowds gathered before a Hungarian radio station to broadcast their demands to Hungary, which was guarded by AVH, the security police. The Heavy H fired on the crowd, killing a number of people. At this point, Red Cross ambulances arrived, and instead of helping the people, they tried to help the AVH. The protesters took their weapons from them and attacked the radio station. 5 days of street fighting followed. During the night, workers from working-class districts on the edge of the city drove in to aid the protesters, acquiring weapons and further ammunitions along the way. Soviet tanks entered Budapest as protesters stood up barricades and attacked them with Molotov cocktails, burning out tanks. The radio station fell to the protesters. The next day, a battle was fought at Corvin Passage, a key point in the city, falling to the rebels, allowing them to gain control of a swath of territory, connecting the barracks to the radio station and giving them a more defensive position. During this time, Imre Nagy was appointed Prime Minister, promising to enact reforms and appealing for violence to stop. In the Soviet Union, Khrushchev decided against sending further troops into Hungary, believing the Communist Party still had popular support, whilst in Hungary the AVH forces fired on protesters before the Hungarian parliament. At this point, the revolution spread across Hungary, and the AVH was attacked by local militias, and communist symbols, such as the Red Star, destroyed across the country. A few days later, Soviet leaders decided against removing Nagy's government. It looked by the 31st of October as if the revolution had succeeded. Soviets had withdrawn largely from Hungary. Nagy offered to negotiate a peaceful solution. Nagy then declared Hungary was withdrawing from the Warsaw Pact, which was perhaps too radical. By the next morning, Soviet leaders decided to crush the revolution. The reason for this is not exactly clear. It may have been that Hungary withdrawing from the Warsaw Pact would make Khrushchev look weak, or it could have been Republic Square video footage showing communist officers being lynched and killed by rebels, most likely a combination of these two. During the next couple days, Nagy tried to assemble a government, thinking the United Nations and the West would intervene as Russia invaded. There were protests across the West in Italy, Netherlands, United States, but nothing happened. There was no intervention as Russia invaded, fearing a nuclear conflict. By the evening of the 3rd of November, Russian tanks encircled Budapest. In the morning of the 4th of November, Russian forces launched an attack on Budapest. Hungarian forces tried to resist. They fought very nobly, outnumbered many times over, but this time they faced air support and many more tanks, which they had little hope of winning against with mere rifles and Molotov cocktails. That morning, Nagy made a broadcast to the world asking for help.
This is Hungary calling. This is Hungary calling. The last remaining station. We are requesting you to send us immediate aid in the form of parachute troops over the Trans-Danubian provinces. For the sake of God and freedom, help Hungary!
This is battered Budapest.
No help came. They feared that nuclear confrontation. It was early in the nuclear age, so it was a scare across the Western world. It is largely for this reason that the Hungarian Revolution failed. The West failed to help people liberate themselves from communism. Street fighting, however, continued for 6 days across Budapest before the revolution was entirely crushed. Parts of Budapest were reduced to rubble. Nagy, who had hidden in the Yugoslav embassy, was later arrested and executed 2 years later. In the end, 200,000 fled Hungary, thousands were executed, and Hungary was forced to live under communism for another 3 decades and more. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you're not already, and if you have any comments, I'll be happy to answer them for you. Yeah, thanks for your time.